I've been listening to music ever since I can remember. And then one day, I heard a song that hurt me back. So I turned myself into a tape, recording stories from people who made my life sound better. Because every song is a conversation. Waiting to begin. I'm going to jump a few years, Jonathan, and talk about what films have done to your sense of music. Because to me, it sort of feels like there is some inherent drama in most of your tracks. Exorcism, for instance, it sounds like it's straight out of a film. Does your production value recall some of your association with films? Is it why it's so cinematic?
I think I lost it if you said that it is cinematic.
No, I mean that in a really visually proficient way.
Yeah, because I think there's a visual behind that whole song Exorcism itself, because that whole song came up after reading at that time something that happened somewhere in the middle of Madhya Pradesh, where exactly exorcisms were happening, and the whole story behind it was really different. Yeah, so it's actually, the inspiration of that is from the story that I read, where I believe in the interior places those days, I don't know whether it's still happening, like if somebody is getting married, like the bride had to be with the medicine man or the witch doctor of that small village, like he has to be, she has to be, he says okay after, he has to agree that, which basically means that he has his time and then he gives it, and then she can. And I believe where people have fought against that, and what has happened is, in the end what happens is, like, the groom is killed, somehow he's murdered. Somehow or the other, the headman and everybody murder this guy, and they make this lady a witch. Yeah, they say like this lady is actually a witch, and then they debar her. They see that she is outcasted from the society, from the village out there, and they say nobody can give her any food, water, anything. The whole reason is, again, like, she goes to that situation, so finally she has to sleep with these guys, So there was a huge article about this. I remember reading about it, and then they used to also burn them off, saying that they're witches, which actually goes back to, also, if you look at it from Joan of Arc and all that, that's what happened. So it's not something that happened only in India. It used to happen, I think, even those days, medieval days, even in the Western countries, correct? But the whole thing, the whole nucleus behind it is also because the woman did not give in to these people, So maybe that's why I still, okay, we are very dramatic. We was telling, I'm sure you know that Rex and John worked on that whole thing. So telling them the story and how this thing has to be worked out, and and even telling Fayaz Khan, like, this is the story, so this is what is required out here, this is where this woman is going out, this is where she's running out, and in the end, all the kind of, actually there's a script behind it.
Directed the whole thing in your mind as well. Right?
Yeah.
Is that why you choose to do experimental stuff like theatre, for instance, where you composed music for Prahlada Charitra?
Yeah.
Which is again very interesting because you used just one raw guitar for a whole mythology.
all credit goes to Gil Allen, because he was such a... Actually, the whole Tamil Nadu traditional drama section was against that idea, because it's a mythological subject called Prahlada Charitram, and how do you get a rock guitar for that? That too, a guitar is not at all... It's not a folk instrument, and not a traditional instrument. But then it was amazing. Like, I was with... What an experience. 3 months I lived with those guys. Yeah, because that's how it was. And he had picked up... He did not go for any of the, established theatre people also, actors. He went for the most... the guys who do street theatre. So the reason was, he said, there's no point getting people who know to act, because they already know. Correct? He wouldn't be able to groom them. And I told him, like, I've never directed music, or he said, yeah, that's what I want. I don't want somebody who's already done something. And then he said, yeah, because then people consider, they think that they know it, you don't... Yeah. So it was very interesting. He was...
And he broke a lot of conventions in terms of how plays were directed musically, right? Yeah,
he was a rock musician also, and Gil Allen was a Zen Buddhist monk from Israel. Okay, so you can imagine.
Yeah.
And the guy who was doing talk shows, sex talk shows, because half the time we were sitting and laughing our guts out because the kind of jokes he was cracking out there. Yeah, and 3 months living there. And we did a lot of shows. Actually, first we did about 12 shows at one section in Alliance Francaise. And I think we went up to NSD also. We did in NSD, we did in Mysore,
yeah, you were traveling.
Andhra. Yeah, we traveled. It was very interesting, yeah. And I never knew, actually, I was part of the whole play. Like, the play starts with just me walking inside with a guitar, with my rock guitar.
Yeah. Do you remember any of that?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a beautiful classical, Western classical kind of piece which we did one. Actually, Prahlada's mother is, sitting and cuddling the kid and all that. We came up with something there. Want to listen to it sometime? For Prahlada Charitram, can you believe it?
John Antony, you've always played Indian classical with a lot of influence from blues and jazz, which sort of brings me to your album as well, because it's a very interesting concept album of sorts that explores really massive, diametrically opposite ideas like light and dark and dawn and dusk and man and nature, which reflects in your sense of music also, because it's part acoustic, part electronic, part contemporary, part traditional.
Yeah.
Do you always find yourself belonging to two worlds at once? Is that why, even while you were sort of aspiring to be a rock musician, Carnatic took hold of you?
Okay. This whole thing about Indian music, that's definitely all credit goes to M.G. Rajaratnam. So when I was at that time playing for Hijackers and all that, when you were this big, you have a lot of hair and you're stupid and you think you're a big rock star, at that time. Those days, because you play a lot of copyrighted songs and all that, and people say, wow, you played that well, you played this well, and then he used to really abuse me, he's asked me so many times, like, what the, I don't know whether I can use those words. Now, are you playing? He said, no. And then he said, have you ever thought about what you have here? What is in your culture? Have you ever thought about it? He said, it's a gold mine out here. And then he used to say, this is what he used to say, you know. Which is actually very correct. You can't even do it that properly, and you actually have amazing stuff out here.
Jonathan, what's the distance between kARNATRiix in its original form and your global ensemble today?
Actually, both are two different acts. Yeah, the global ensemble is entirely different. It's completely where all of us are live, actually. Okay, I'll tell you why my concept of kARNATRiix is only. See, Fires and myself go back to about 30 years, you know. So, both of us, while a re-recording, when you booked for a re-recording, you're there for almost a week inside the studio, and you just get to play maybe 4 or 5 minutes in the complete movie. So, the remaining time, we are sitting and practicing. And so I'll be sitting and working something on my nylon string guitar, and he'll be sitting and working. We always, we were very close friends. We always liked that stuff. But then we knew that getting a band is a big headache. You know,
yes.
like putting up a band. Hats off to big bands anyway. Like how are they doing it? I have no idea. So that was my idea how to do it. So only with myself and Fires. So it makes things easier. I remember while playing with Shankar and Zakir and all that, they always saying, don't make the band big, because if you're doing alternate music, it's not going to be selling much. So you need lesser people so you can travel. It's easier for the people to do that. So for me, it was just Fires and myself. And I wanted the band to be in a CD or in my machine so that we could practice at any time. We don't have to pay them for that. Only initial get the band set up, you know. And that's how I put this idea to Rex when I met him. I met Rex when Rex came to play. He also came to play for Vijay Travan's second album. Gospel singer Vijay Travan from Cochin, his second album. So that's it. And another thing is, I know I used to be playing with Rex's dad those days with Rajasthan, you know. Vijay and myself are friends actually. So when I told this idea to Rex, and then I played him Endiru Mahanubhavulu and all that, you know.
Oh yes, please play a little bit of that.
Yeah, so when I played him that, he's the one who told me that I'll definitely work on that, and he said, just don't worry, you just come down and we'll do that. Actually, the reason why I, on that section, deliberately get into the distortion sound, because by the time I did this, I learned that it took almost a year by the time we got into the studio to record it, okay? And I knew that this has to be learned by the way Chetan used to tell me, like there's something in Indian music. I can just use the sounds and get youngsters to listen to it, and then they understand like in Indian music.
Yeah.
It's like this.
It's amazing how you've come full circle with that song.
Yes, definitely. And so, because I know as a guitarist, the moment the distortion is on, the guitarists are very interested, especially the youngsters, correct? Because distortion is the metal stuff, it's this whole thing. And at least that would get them to listen to it, you know, at least spend some time listening to it. But I'm happy I have, after that I have at least about 5 or 6 serious students on guitar who then are learning Indian music, and they're learning. If they come to learn to me, then there are certain things they have to definitely learn Indian. They have to learn classically to sing, and they have to learn definitely the mathematics behind everything, because that's what took me across the ocean actually. Yeah. It would have never been if I was playing blues and rock out here. It would have been, I would have just been playing again out inside here, or just stuck onto the film industry itself. It's only because I could slightly, so I know that what I missed as a youngster, you know, like, so I told all the and most of them, yeah, they're doing pretty well. They all now, I think you can find a lot of
Google
them now
places.
getting
Yeah,
into
yeah.
this, yeah. So first, before this, I tried this whole Indian touch on this. Was actually first done in the Greenpeace International album. I did an album for Greenpeace International. So in that is when I actually really experimented and tried to see errors. And it was this great bassist, Carl Peters,
Yes.
Keith's brother. When he heard it, he told me, Johnny, don't miss this. This is you're getting an identity. Don't miss it. He said. So then I started. The only way that I learn all this is learn to listen to great Indian musicians who have played, and then whichever I like, learn it and try to emulate it the same as much as I can do on the guitar.
Out of a lack of time, I'm going to jump a few years and come back to where we are today. I understand you've been working on a new album for a few years now.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us where it is today, how it's taking shape, what it's about?
Okay.
Could be about time, isn't it?
The title of the album is Anne. This is A-N. A lot of people thought it was Anne, and a lot of friends asked me, who's this Anne now? Because that's not my wife's name. Okay.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah. I said, no, this is just A-N. And then I think even to the editors, the journalists, I said, okay, just go and Google and check out on Zen what is it. It's actually comfortably back home, you know. Which because I started my musical, my serious journey started from Trivandrum. Even though I was in Cochin playing with bands, which was just before that I was playing this band called Stone Age and Hijackers. That's the time that I came here, and then I actually came to learn to play the guitar at Tharanganasri School.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Principal Rogers asked me to teach here. But then I was learning from him. When he was here for about 1.5, 2 years, I was learning from him. So that's when I actually got to meet Ralston Jetton also. And then I knew, like, music is not something, it's not just playing 4 chords and jumping on stage out of tune, you know, just emulating, but it's a serious, I never ever expected it to be such, there's so much of serious stuff behind it, you know, because he put me on the classical guitar, he put me on this, he put me on. So it actually started from here, and there is a piece at that time which he had asked me to transcribe. Transcribing is like from piano to guitar. It was not done at that time, you know, by anybody. And then so I transcribed it, and 2 moments of that I had transcribed it. And then so he told me, sometime in life, you play your experience with this. This will come back. And actually, I came back here and I had all these old books. And after that, I went to the industry, I was playing with bands. So many things happened. I came here and his old book is there. And how I had learned to transcribe it in that handwriting is still there, you know. So I started reviving it, and it's a Bach's piece from Partita 6 called Toccato. And then I sat with Fayaz Khan, and we started working on that, you know, like how it can be Bach's piece. Okay, this chord comes in, what rag works out from here. So we thought about a story like Bach is coming from Austria, and these people are people going from here, and where do they meet, and how he plays these 3 chords, and how, let it be a musical, let the language be, you know, the communication be that. So that's how it started actually. So we are comfortably back.
Can you give us something we can go back with? A bit of this?
It's it's a story.
I want this to be a soundtrack to my life. You know? That's about right.
So that's the title track, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Comfortably back home with all the stories and everything, you know. So I'm looking out actually for the right people to do it. I found a good keyboard player in Germany actually, Chris. I hope I could get him.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll work it out.
I'm trying to go back to a time when I was lying on the ground alongside a bunch of friends, looking up at stars, coming of age. Listening to this man play is the best way to go back to that time. Thank you for your music, Jonathan. Thank you for Songversations.
Thanks to you, thanks to Kappa, thanks to Mr. Ani.
Incredible pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy. Like